This season will prove to be the most pivotal in the careers of all current F1 drivers. With brand new power units and a whole new aero package in the works, the competition is wide open, and any team could take advantage of a golden opportunity to move ahead. Even Williams, Alpine, or Haas could suddenly find themselves competing for race wins. Trying to predict what happens? Forget it. It's highly unlikely. What is certain, however, is that drivers are making gigantic decisions right now. Do they stay with the teams that they are with? Do they chance it by moving to a team that may provide them with a championship-winning car? Some drivers won't even have a seat next season. And most notably, the biggest questions are around the two giants, Mercedes and Red Bull. With the summer break approaching fast, the driver market is heating up, and some major moves are right around the corner. Today, we're diving into who's at risk, who wants out, who might be coming in, and just what is going on behind the scenes at Mercedes. So don't go anywhere. Last season's driver market? Utter chaos. Nearly the whole grid was reallocated, with only McLaren and Aston Martin maintaining their driver lineups for 2025. Since so much of business was done last season, there actually aren't a lot of drivers out of contract this time. But the ones who are, they could completely shake up the sport. Let's start with the big one. Mercedes. George Russell and Andrea Kimi Antonelli are both out of contract next year. George, however, has been simply brilliant. He's managed to extract every last ounce of performance out of a Mercedes that really isn't there yet. All this, and yet he's already scored 4 podiums, and at the Canadian Grand Prix, when McLaren got it wrong, he won. And Antonelli, he also secured his first podium in Canada. Although fair to say he hasn't lived up to the huge amounts of hype Toto Wolff built before the season began. He has yet to score a point in 4 Grands Prix, and yes, Mercedes' power unit issues have certainly been a part of it, but he has fewer than half Russell's points. But as a rookie, that can be forgiven. And even after a rough start, do remember that crash on barely his second ever F1 lap in FP1 at Imola? He's settled into the role very well now. He's been steady, consistent, and overall, Mercedes will have to be happy with how he's developed so far. At Red Bull, the tale is equally dramatic. Their erstwhile legendary junior driver scheme? It's been drying up for 2 years now. Nick de Vries was brought in to plug the gap. He didn't quite do it. Then along came Liam Lawson, and for some inexplicable reason, he was worse than Sergio Perez. And now Yuki Tsunoda has been upgraded to the senior team, but his results have been, bluntly, persistently disappointing. At this point, it's hard to say what's more disappointing, the car or the drivers. Until Red Bull builds something that is actually roadworthy, it's very hard to bemoan whoever finds themselves waiting in line alongside Max Verstappen. And this is the bombshell. Most of the Red Bull team is out of contract after just 14 races. That includes Tsunoda, Lawson, and Isaac Hadjar. Hadjar has been the belle of the ball. What would Red Bull do with him, and with whom he'd even be racing next season? No idea. And then there's the strange Alpine situation. After the Austrian Grand Prix, they will have only one signed driver on the books. The team are between a rock and a hard place in whether to go with Franco Into or Jack Dan. Is Franco actually any better than Jack? Do they both deserve a 2026 seat? It won't be quite so absurd as last season, but there's still a lot of churn ahead, and one thing is certain. Mercedes are going to want to have a go first. The one question that Toto Wolff most requires an answer for is Max Verstappen on the market? Mercedes' boss was spending the early part of this year being publicly keen on pursuing the reigning world champion. George Russell was fine with it when it did occur, saying it didn't concern him. And let's be honest, what squad would sign up for Verstappen if they could? But within the last month or so, Toto has become suddenly silent on the matter. Is it because things are actually now moving in the background, or is it because he has committed to Russell? Instead, Kimi Antonelli seems set for a new contract and has been described as the future of Mercedes a number of times by Toto, which means it is Russell at risk if the Verstappen is signed. It's tough on Russell. He's done everything that was expected of him. He's stepped into Lewis Hamilton's shoes and has delivered so far, probably better than many people expected. In addition to that, because of all the movement that happened last year, there isn't a top seat available apart from maybe a Red Bull. Though if they do let Liuki go, they would surely prefer one of their own junior drivers over an import. It is Mercedes' style to make their drivers wait for new contracts. Though Russell's previous deals were announced in September in 2021 and then in August 2023. Before him, the bulk of Hamilton's renewals came in July and August, so there is still time for Russell. He isn't stupid, though. He knows how this game works and has been playing the field in case things don't pan out at Mercedes. He was spotted in conversation with McLaren bosses Zach Brown and Andreas Steller in the paddock at the season opening, Australian Grand Prix in 2018 March. And then Russell was seen embracing Alpine executive advisor Flavio Briatore at the following race in China. It emerged in April that Russell had held informal talks with Red Bull team principal Christian Herr as well, who publicly expressed an interest in signing the British driver last season. And more recently, Aston Martin has emerged as another potential destination for Russell, with the team reportedly expressing an interest in the fourth-time race winner. Even more recently, though, Wolff has given an indication of what is most likely to happen. When asked about the future of Georgia Mercedes, his answers have changed from deflecting the question to saying a contract will come in time. Asked if Russell will be forced to wait until September for a new deal, Wall said, "Definitely not that long. George and I are totally clear of how this is going to go, and there is 100% alignment. There's no such thing as dragging this on because that's not what we do." So while Mercedes looks like they could be busy in the market, everything's actually pointing towards a continuation of Russell and Antonelli. Mercedes just need to get some contracts signed. While things are looking simple for Mercedes, Red Bull's drivers are making it very difficult for them. Across the two teams, Red Bull have 3 drivers out of contract: Tsunoda, Lawson, and Hajar. In 2022, Max Verstappen signed a deal to keep him at Red Bull until 2028. However, that didn't stop months of speculation last year that perceived anonymity in the Red Bull team and heavy interest from Mercedes could see him depart Red Bull. Before then, Red Bull have also confirmed that performance-based exit clauses do exist in Max's contract, and with the team 4th in the Constructors' Championship and the Verstappen 43 points off the championship lead, it can probably be assumed that those clauses will be active if Max does decide he wants to move teams. Will he choose to act on those clauses, though, or would he rather wait a year and see what the grid looks like after a season of new regulations, and then make a decision on whether to leave or not? Those are questions that no one but Max himself can answer. Instead, let's focus on the other 3. Ideally for Red Bull, Liam Lawson would have worked out in the Red Bull team, which then would have allowed them to let Yuki Tsunoda go from the Racing Balls at the end of 2025 and promote Arvid Lindblad in his place. Obviously, things haven't worked out that way. Lawson had a terrible first 2 races at Red Bull, and to save his career, they swapped him out for Tsunoda. It was the right decision at the time, but it was one that they should never have had to make. Tsunoda probably should have had that seat to begin with, even if it was just for 1 year. Red Bull aren't in that ideal world, though. And what they have now is a young driver in Isaac Hajar, who is comfortably outperforming Liam Lawson. Promoting him for 2026 is probably sooner than Red Bull would ideally want, but that might be the situation they find themselves in. It's no secret that Red Bull don't really want Yuki long-term, so the assumption is that he'll move on elsewhere, or potentially out of F1 altogether. That means Hanar gets the promotion up to Red Bull, and Lawson finds himself alongside Lindblad next season. Though if Lawson's results continue as they have so far this season, then he's far from guaranteed a contract renewal. Ayumu Iwasa, the current Red Bull reserve driver, must be chomping at the bit to get a chance to impress Christian Horner this season and take that seat off Lawson. Music. Finally, there is Alpine. The team is all over the place at the moment, following the departure of Renault chairman Luca Deo. No one quite knows if Renault want to sell or if they're trying to rebuild for a charge to the front. Certainly, the end of their engine department implies that they don't want to invest too heavily going forward. What is even more awkward, though, is the state of their second seat. Franco Colapinto is out of contract after the Austrian Grand Prix, when he was given a chance to replace Jack Dan after the Miami Grand Prix. Alpine very openly said he had 5 races to prove himself. Has he? Well, neither has scored any points so far, but Dwan's average finishing position from the 4 races he finished was 14.75, while Colapinto's has been 14.25. A gain of half a position is an improvement, but he still hasn't scored any points, though. They have Paul Aaron as a reserve driver who had a stellar F2 campaign last year, finishing third champion Gabriel Bortalto and Isaac Haja.